They said Hiroshima was safe, too small to matter, too far from Tokyo to burn, a city of rivers and sunlight, spared by chance or mercy. By 1945, war had already swallowed everything else. Tokyo lay in ashes. Osaka was a skeleton of smoke. Nagasaki waited quietly for its turn. But Hiroshima still woke each morning to the sound of trams and temple bells. They called it the City of Peace, headquarters of the Second Army, home to students, soldiers, and families who believed the war would pass them by. Its bridges arched like ribbons across 6 rivers. Its sky glowed clean and blue. No one knew that the last sunrise they'd ever see would look exactly like the day before. No one ever does. Before we begin, if you truly enjoy these stories, hitting like or subscribe helps me keep making them, and hopefully helps you keep drifting off. Let me know where you're listening from tonight. I'm always amazed by the places people tune in. Now, get comfortable, take a slow breath in, and let it out. Because once this story begins, chances are you'll be asleep before it ends. You wake before the cicadas. The air already presses down, thick as silk. Warm but not yet unbearable. For a brief moment, you can almost pretend you live in a peaceful country. Outside, the river murmurs, quiet and indifferent, threading its way through the 6 channels that make Hiroshima the city of water. Your house creaks softly as it breathes into the morning. Paper doors slide open to let in a square of gold light. Your wife folds the futons with mechanical grace. Your daughter has already escaped to the veranda, squatting over a bamboo dragonfly toy. The first tram bell rings from the distance, a thin, metallic chime that sounds more like memory than movement. It is August 6th, 1945, the 45th year of the Emperor's reign. The sky over Hiroshima is so perfectly clear it almost looks scrubbed. Even the distant hills shimmer. You tell yourself it will be another ordinary day. The word ordinary still feels safe to say aloud. The radio hums quietly in the next room. Static, then a woman's steady voice from NHK Hiroshima. Air activity near Kyushu remains under watch. The Imperial Army continues to defend the homeland with courage. She speaks as though reading poetry, every syllable rehearsed. You can nearly hear the strain of pretending the world still makes sense. Prime Minister Kantaro Suzuki had spoken last night, his tone polite, cracked with age. He promised that Japan would endure any hardship rather than submit. You remember thinking how thin his voice sounded, like paper rubbed to the edge. No one mentioned that he had already rejected the Potsdam Declaration 3 days ago, sealing whatever would come next. But no one here knows that. People only know the sound of his politeness, not its cost. The Chugoku Shimbun waits folded on the low table. You unfold it carefully, as though newsprint might break. Bold type reads, "The motherland's defense continues." Beneath it, smaller stories. Ration update, barley mix to replace rice, and civilians encouraged to endure with spirit. The letters look proud and tired at the same time. No one writes about surrender. They write about vegetables and courage. Outside, a tofu vendor calls through the alley, "Tofu, fresh tofu." The cry echoes off tile roofs, mixes with the smell of charcoal and seaweed. You step out to greet him. He smiles, wipes sweat with the towel around his neck, says, "Hot again today." You nod. Every morning is the same conversation, repeated until it becomes ritual. Down the street, women sweep storefronts. A bicycle rattles over the stones. Two children chase each other carrying wooden brooms. Students from Hiroshima Girls High School, already assigned to clear fire breaks in case of air raids. Their laughter doesn't match their uniforms. The world has asked too much from people that young. A single white plane drifts high overhead, glinting. Someone nearby shades their eyes and says, "Probably a reconnaissance plane." Another adds, "They've been photographing the city all week." Everyone looks for a second, then keeps walking. Even fear has become routine. You glance toward the Ioi Bridge, its T-shape slicing across the Otter River. Streetcars rattle over it, red paint faded from heat and ration paint. Vendors arrange vegetables on low bamboo trays, eggplants, daikon, and a handful of bruised tomatoes. The smell of the morning market drifts up the slope. Soy, salt, and river water. You could draw a map of the sounds alone. Bells, sandals, birds, the faint crackle of a broom on stone. Somewhere far to the south, across a horizon no one here will ever see, a B-29 bomber named Enola Gay has already lifted from Tinian Island. Its crew adjusts instruments, checks the strange new weapon inside its bay. But that sky is too distant, too innocent looking to imagine danger. Here, the only sound is a bell from Honkawa Temple, slow and low. You bow slightly without thinking, habit more than faith. The humidity thickens as the sun climbs. Even the cicadas pause between shrieks, overwhelmed by their own noise. Your neighbor, Mrs. Endo, leans from her window and says, "They say our city is protected by the gods." My husband heard it from a soldier. You smile politely because disbelief would sound impolite. She adds, "Maybe they keep us safe because the emperor still prays for us." You nod, though you know the emperor prays for everyone. At the corner, the postman pedals by, humming a war song, one about cherry blossoms falling for honor. He calls your name, hands you a thin envelope, and jokes, "No news is still news, eh?" The letter is from an old school friend in Kyoto, short and carefully neutral. He writes, "Food is scarce. We are healthy." Those two sentences now mean survival. A short siren wails across the city, one long note that bends in the heat. You freeze instinctively. A few heads lift. Then, minutes later, the all-clear sounds. A voice crackles from a neighborhood loudspeaker. Enemy aircraft detected above Western Sea. No immediate threat. Someone laughs nervously. People resume sweeping, shopping, breathing. The sound of safety has begun to resemble the sound of denial. You return home, sandals dusty, hands damp. Your wife has laid out the bowls for breakfast. Your daughter has arranged her school notebook neatly beside her, the cover decorated with little paper cranes. You kneel to help her tie the ribbon in her hair. She asks, "Will father go to work today?" You answer yes, though work has little meaning now. The factory mostly cleans and counts. The radio continues its low monologue. A man's voice now, calm, official, reading a list of patriotic donations. Miss Sato, age 9, 1 silver hairpin for the Imperial Forces. Mr. Okada, 30 sen from savings. Each offering feels small and holy. You wonder how many people listen out of devotion, and how many just for the comfort of sound. Outside, the world is bright beyond reason. The light seems almost wide enough to hum. A fisherman pushes his boat down the riverbank, bare feet slipping in the mud. A boy runs past with a bamboo pole balanced across his shoulders. You watch the city stretch and yawn, alive in every direction. You tell yourself, remember this exact shade of morning, because somewhere inside you, a thought you'll never say aloud, you know perfection like this is fragile. No storm lasts forever, but neither does calm. The air tastes of something final, though you can't name it. You exhale and feel the weight of August settle behind your ribs. Far above, another tiny glint crosses the sun, a second silver speck, following the first. Nobody notices this one. The sound doesn't reach the ground, only the faintest vibration in the air, like the pause before a bell. You slide the paper door closed, shading the room to gold. The clock ticks softly. Your wife hums a folk tune while arranging bowls on the low table. You hear her voice, thin but steady, repeating an old proverb. Even in defeat, the rice must still be washed. You smile. It's the kind of wisdom that keeps a nation alive. The smell of miso and barley fills the room. Your daughter laughs again, chasing the dragonfly through the open doorway. Outside, the cicadas begin their full-throated chorus, loud enough to make you dizzy. The sound rolls across rooftops, through the market, over the water. It is the heartbeat of the city itself. You think of writing a letter to your brother, though you've written him 3 with no reply. You imagine him in Okinawa, somewhere among shattered coral and smoke. You imagine him seeing the same sun you see now. You say a small prayer that he can still smell the sea. Somewhere down the street, a child starts to sing, one of those school songs about the emperor's garden and the rising sun. Other voices join in. It sounds off-key and pure at once. You rest your hand on the wooden frame of the door, feeling its faint warmth. The world still exists. That is enough for now. You take one more breath of the morning, slow and deliberate. Steam from the kitchen drifts past your face, soft as the incense smoke. A temple bell sounds from across the river, counting another hour of ordinary life. You listen until the echo disappears. Soon, breakfast will be ready. Soon, you'll sit beside your family again, pretending the war is somewhere else. For now, there's only the hum of the radio, the warmth of the floor, and the light that makes every shadow seem kind. The city breathes with you, steady and unaware. You glance once more toward the window. The air ripples. A breeze touches the curtains like a secret. You tell yourself, perhaps aloud, such a beautiful day for nothing to happen. And with that thought, you move toward the kitchen, where bowls of steaming rice wait, and the first clatter of chopsticks will open the next small chapter of the morning. The steam rises before you sit. It curls from the bowl like a small ghost, vanishing into sunlight. Your wife sets the table with quiet precision. 2 bowls of barley mixed rice, 1 of miso soup, a single egg halved between you, and a pickled plum placed neatly in the center. It is a modest feast by this year's standards. You bow your head briefly before eating. Not a prayer exactly, more a habit of gratitude. The air smells of soy and cedar. The cicadas outside buzz without pause, and for a moment, it feels like their noise is keeping the world together. Your daughter watches the steam rise and laughs, saying it looks like the spirits of the rice are escaping. You eat slowly, savoring each bite. The barley stretches the rice farther, a trick everyone knows now. Ration cards hang from a nail near the door, thin sheets of paper with names and stamps that measure survival in spoons and bowls. Your wife keeps them carefully folded, smoothing the creases as if straightening her own hope. Every family in Hiroshima has become an accountant of hunger. On the radio, a low voice begins to read names, a list of patriotic donations. Miss Ito, age 7, 1 copper hairpin for the defense of the emperor. Mr. Nakamura, age 40, 2 coins, pledged with spirit. You listen because silence feels heavier than the words. Your daughter hums along with the closing jingle, a soft, orchestral march that always fades before the hour. It is 6:45 a.m. now. The light outside grows fierce enough to make the walls glow. You can see dust floating like pale gold in the air. Your wife pours green tea into cracked porcelain cups, and you both watch it steam. She mentions that she dreamed of her brother last night, the one lost at sea in 1942. In the dream, he was walking on a calm ocean, waving, smiling, as though returning home. You tell her it sounds like a good dream. She nods, but doesn't answer. For a while, the only sound is the scrape of chopsticks on porcelain. Your daughter finishes early, licking the last grains of rice from her fingers. She asks if she can visit the neighbor's cat before school, and your wife tells her yes, but to come back before the next air raid drill. Outside, the postman's bicycle bell jingles again, the rhythm of a living city. A vendor calls out prices for sweet potatoes. From somewhere deeper in the neighborhood, a temple drum begins its morning chant. The priest's voice floats through the open window. All beings are transient. Even the mountains will bow to time. You glance up. You've heard it before, but today it sounds almost personal. Your wife folds a damp cloth and wipes the table. Her movements are precise, deliberate, the kind of calm that comes from years of scarcity. You admire her resilience, though you never say it aloud. In the mirror near the door, you see your reflection and barely recognize it. Thin, sun-browned, a few new lines since spring. The war has aged everyone, even those who never held a weapon. A neighbor passes by the open window and greets you with a soft "Ohayo." It's Mrs. Takamura, the school teacher from 2 houses down. She carries a wicker basket filled with notebooks and says, "They've shortened classes again. More time for labor duty." You both smile politely, the kind of smile that apologizes for things no one can change. You step outside to stretch. The morning hum is rising. Bicycles, footsteps, the dull clang of pots being scrubbed. Across the alley, Mr. Watanabe repairs sandals in front of his shop. He waves, holding up a pair of worn gaiter and saying, "If these break, I'll just nail the war to them next." You laugh quietly. Humor is still the cheapest luxury in town. The heat presses down like a polite guest refusing to leave. A few neighbors fan themselves with folded newspapers. The Chugoku Shimbun's front page flutters slightly in the breeze. The headlines you saw earlier, "Our divine nation will prevail," seem almost shy now, as though even the type has grown tired of repeating itself. At the end of the street, a group of teenage girls in white blouses march by, carrying shovels and rags. Their armbands read, "Mobilized Students, Demolition Corps." They wave cheerfully, their shadows thin and long on the road. They're heading toward the riverside to clear another block of wooden houses, a fire break against a fire no one expects. You watch them go and wonder who taught them to smile like that. You return to the table. The rice bowls are empty. Your wife has wrapped the remaining pickles in paper to save for lunch. She glances toward the radio and asks softly, "Do you think the war will end soon?" You hesitate, then say, "Maybe." The Prime Minister sounds tired. It's not the answer she wants, but it's the only one that feels true. The radio changes tone. A faint male voice from Tokyo, distant and muffled. It speaks of the Emperor's faith in the people, of new technology being developed to repel the American menace. You've heard similar lines for years, but now they sound like someone practicing how to sound hopeful. You twist the dial lower until the voice becomes a whisper. Your daughter returns, holding a small origami crane she made with the neighbor's son. She sets it carefully beside her empty bowl and says, "It's flying to bring peace." Your wife smiles faintly and tells her it's beautiful. You look at it, the thin, delicate wings folded from ration paper, and realize that the symbol of flight feels heavier than it used to. At 7 o'clock, the bells from Honkawa Temple ring again. Long, slow tones that roll across the district. You count them out of habit. You imagine the monks wiping sweat from their foreheads as they pull the ropes. They have been ringing the same bell since before your parents were born. The sound carries through every window in the city, soft enough to forgive, strong enough to remember. You refill your cup with the last of the tea, though it's more hot water than flavor now. The newspaper lies open on the table. Your wife reads the horoscope section aloud, pretending it still matters. Leo, she says, will find new purpose before the season ends. You both laugh quietly. Then she reads yours. Capricorn, a journey of the heart draws near. You tell her that one must be a printing error. Outside, another distant plane hums faintly overhead. You pause, listening. It fades behind the hills, a silver speck against the white morning sky. No alarm this time. You remember the last real raid, months ago, when the sirens screamed through the night and everyone slept under tables. You've become so used to survival that quiet feels almost wrong. A knock at the door. It's your neighbor's teenage son, Hiroshi, asking if you've seen his father's shovel. He's supposed to join the student laborers at the firebreak zone near the river. You lend him yours and wish him luck. He bows deeply, thanks you, and runs off, shouting something about the heat. His wooden sandals slap the road in a rhythm that fades quickly. The radio clicks again, a different broadcast, a softer tone. A woman reading letters from soldiers at the front. Most end the same way. Please take care of yourselves until victory. Her voice trembles slightly on that word. Victory. You can hear how hollow it has become, but she reads it gently, as if to comfort herself. Your wife gathers the dishes, stacking them carefully. Your daughter hums the same tune from earlier, her paper crane now resting beside her chopsticks. The house smells faintly of soy and sunlight. You realize you could freeze this moment forever. The scent, the sound, the stillness, and it would look no different from happiness. The clock on the wall ticks towards 7:15. You stand, stretch, and look out the window again. The street glows white with morning heat. Somewhere a radio crackles through an open shop door, repeating a phrase about perseverance through faith. You whisper to yourself, faith or habit? Maybe they're the same thing now. You take your cup to the basin, rinse it clean, and let the last drops fall onto the wooden floor. Your wife sets a damp towel on the sill to dry. The air is thick enough to see. She says softly, I'll go to the market soon, before it gets too hot. You nod. The market, another ritual of endurance. Life stitched together by errands and echoes. You tie your sandals. The light on the wall wavers as a breeze pushes through the shoji screens. Your daughter tugs your sleeve and says, Promise we'll have shaved ice again when the war is over. You smile. You tell her you promise. You hope the gods accept promises made by tired men. The morning continues, ordinary, perfect, unremarkable. You step toward the door, squinting into the brightness. Down the street, people move like clockwork, as if time itself has decided to show mercy one more day. You inhale the heavy air and think, The city has never looked more alive. And with that thought, you close the door gently behind you, beginning the walk toward the market where the sounds of the living world wait. The cries of vendors, the echo of bicycle wheels, and the faint hum of something unseen far above the clouds. The streets shimmer like mirrors. The air is already heavy by 7:15, carrying the smell of steamed rice, soy, and wet stone. You step outside, shielding your eyes from the light, and the first thing you notice is the sound. Hundreds of lives moving in unison, sandals tapping on cobblestones, the hiss of bicycle tires, a vendor's cry echoing off tile roofs. Hiroshima has woken completely now. The 6 rivers slice through the city like silver threads, reflecting the sky too brightly to look at. Bridges arch from one island district to the next. Aioi, Motoyasu, Kyobashi. From a distance, they look like musical notes across water. You think, not for the first time, that this is the most beautiful city in Japan. Tram number 2 rattles down the track toward Hachibori, its red paint dull from years of dust and ration paint. The conductor leans from the window, ringing the bell twice before stopping. The smell of grease, sweat, and pressed cotton fills the air as passengers climb aboard. 2 women fan themselves with newspapers, gossiping about prices at the market. A soldier gives up his seat to an old woman, smiling awkwardly. One of those small civilities that still survives even after everything else. You walk beside the rails, following the scent of grilled soy and smoke toward the morning market. Your sandals slap against the stones. At every corner there's motion, people buying, trading, pretending the world hasn't changed. A man selling bamboo baskets shouts his prices. A woman lays out paper fans painted with cranes. You stop at a vegetable store where the vendor, an elderly man with soot on his hands, says, "No daikon today, but I have burdock root, strong for the stomach. You buy too, though they're thin and bitter," and he thanks you with a bow that looks like prayer. Farther along, a crowd gathers near the Fukuya department store. The front windows display little more than mannequins wearing patched cotton, but people still stop to look. A woman whispers that she used to work in the textile section before the factory conversions. Her husband hushes her quickly. No one wants to sound nostalgic for a different Japan. Near the tram stop, a group of students in white uniforms sweep the street, members of the mobilized youth corps. Their shovels clatter, raising tiny clouds of dust that glitter in the light. One boy turns to his friend and says, "They say there's a new bomb, something that can erase a whole city." The other laughs. "Then why would they waste it on us?" They both keep sweeping. You keep walking. A paper boy pedals past, shouting headlines from the Chugoku Shimbun. Imperial Army repels American raid on Kyushu. Enemy losses heavy. The words tumble out of him like a script. He's maybe 10 years old, his knees skinny and bruised. His voice cracks when he yells, "Victory." People glance up, smile weakly, then look back at their errands. Across the street, a radio crackles from a window. Reports of increased American activity near the southern islands. Civilians urged to remain calm and continue production efforts. The static hums like cicadas between sentences. You notice how no one reacts anymore. Fear, like hunger, has become part of the background. The air thickens. At 7:09 a.m., a faint siren begins. One long, uncertain tone that slices through the chatter. Everyone freezes. Baskets hang mid-air. A woman whispers, "Air raid?" The sound echoes off the rivers, thin and hesitant, like a warning that's lost its conviction. You look up. The sky is spotless, painfully blue. Somewhere high above, a faint glint of silver moves, too small to identify. A man near you squints and says, "Just a reconnaissance plane." They always turn away. Another adds, "If it were a raid, we'd already hear the big ones." The siren trails off, replaced by the soft whine of cicadas. Then, from a rooftop speaker, a calm voice announces, "Enemy aircraft detected above Western Sea. No immediate threat. Remain at ease." A few people laugh in relief, a few don't. You notice how the laughter doesn't quite sound right. It ends too quickly. Everyone goes back to motion. But slower now, eyes flicking toward the sky more often. The hum of the city resumes, though slightly off-key, like an instrument playing through dust. You continue down the street toward the Motomachi district. A vendor selling sweet bean buns is arguing with a customer over ration coupons. Yesterday, this was 2 sen, the woman protests. He shrugs. Then yesterday must have been peacetime. The woman pays anyway. You catch her smiling faintly as she walks away. Resentment has learned how to coexist with kindness. At the corner, a wooden sign reads, "Second Army Headquarters. Authorized personnel only." 2 soldiers in khaki uniforms stand smoking in the shade. Their rifles lean against the wall. One says, "Tokyo will never surrender." The other answers, "Tokyo might not get to decide." They both stare into the distance, faces blank as masks. You nod politely as you pass. Neither returns the gesture. You stop near the Aoi Bridge, the central crossroad of the city. From here, the Ota River splits and widens toward the harbor. A young artist sits sketching the water on a scrap of paper, using charcoal stolen from a stove. He tells you he's trying to capture the light before summer ends. You tell him it's beautiful light. He laughs softly and says, "Beautiful, but temporary, like everything." A tram screeches around the corner, its wheels throwing sparks. Inside, a conductor calls out stops. "Kamiya-cho, Hachibori, Koi." A mother lifts her child through the door, apologizing for the delay. The child clutches a wooden toy plane, one wing broken. He holds it up proudly, shouting, "Look, I'm flying." The entire tram smiles for a heartbeat, an island of innocence in a sea of exhaustion. The sound of a temple bell rolls across the district, deeper than the siren before. Its echo moves through the air like a long breath. You pause on the bridge, hands resting on the rail, and feel the faint tremor of the city's heartbeat beneath you. Footsteps, bicycles, the hiss of water against stone. You think, this is what peace must have sounded like everywhere, right before people learned how fragile it was. At the far end of the bridge, you spot a group of factory workers in faded uniforms walking together. One carries a small radio. Another smokes a cigarette rolled from old newspaper. They joke about Tokyo's blackout orders, saying, if they can't see the stars, maybe the gods will lose us too. You almost smile. Wartime humor has learned to survive in strange places. The heat intensifies, pressing against your skin like a blanket. You buy a small block of ice from a cart vendor, precious and expensive. He chips a sliver off with a knife and drops it into your tin canteen. The sound of melting ice feels like luxury. He tells you his brother was transferred to Nagasaki last week for special military work. Neither of you says what you're both thinking. That special work rarely means good things anymore. The streets fill with the smell of charcoal and sweat. Shopkeepers shout greetings. Someone sings off-key from an upper floor. A stray dog trots by with a sandal in its mouth. You pass a barber shop, its pole motionless in the still air. Inside, a man sits in a chair reading yesterday's newspaper headline aloud. Foreign leaders dismiss peace terms. He says to no one in particular, even the words are tired. No one argues. At a side street, you stop to rest under a tree. The shade feels like mercy. You watch a girl sketching in a notebook, maybe 12 years old. She's drawing the riverbank, the reflections of sunlight trembling in the water. Her pencil moves slowly, deliberately, as if she's tracing the heartbeat of the world. She glances up, smiles shyly, and goes back to her work. You wonder if she'll ever finish that drawing. Around 7:40, the sound of temple bells drifts again, layered with voices calling to each other from balconies. Someone spills a bucket of water, and the splash echoes through the narrow street like applause. An old man selling noodles shouts, "One more hour before the heat steals your appetite." People laugh. Someone buys 2 bowls and shares one with a stranger. The city, in its own way, still knows how to be kind. You cross back toward home, your bag light, but your thoughts heavier. The sky glows white, almost metallic now. A group of young mothers gathers near a well, talking softly about rumors from Tokyo, words like surrender, atomic, unconditional. They speak as if saying them too loudly might make them real. You don't interrupt, you just keep walking, pretending not to have heard. When you reach the corner by the temple, you stop to look back. The entire city seems wrapped in a haze of golden heat. A fisherman pushes his boat into the river. Children run along the embankment, tossing stones. Trams cross bridges like slow-moving beetles. You inhale, and the air tastes faintly of iron and dust. Somewhere high above, so high the sound barely reaches, Another faint engine hums. You look up instinctively, but the sun blinds you. You lower your eyes again, blinking away the brightness. Whatever it is, it's too distant to matter. At least, that's what you tell yourself. The clock tower at the prefectural office strikes 7:50, a rhythm of 5 low tones, deliberate and slow. You turn back toward home, your feet carrying you through the narrow alleys, past the familiar doors, past the smells of miso and soap and smoke, the same streets you've walked for years, the same patterns that make a city feel eternal. You pause once more at your gate, wiping your hands on your trousers. The sound of cicadas is deafening now. It feels like they're shouting on behalf of the living. Your wife's voice floats from inside the house, calling your name, asking if you remembered to buy salt. You answer, yes, though you forgot. She laughs. It's the kind of laughter that means everything is still normal. You step inside. The light shifts again, soft, honey-colored through the shoji screens. Your daughter hums in the next room, folding another paper crane. You remove your sandals, set them neatly beside the door. The air smells faintly of tea and tatami. You exhale, the sound almost a sigh. You think about lying down for a moment before work, just a short rest, the kind you've earned after so many sleepless nights. You tell yourself, 10 minutes won't hurt. Your wife nods, smiling, and says she'll finish packing lunch. You step into the quiet room, sunlight trembling across the floorboards. And as you kneel beside the futon, adjusting the pillow to catch the faintest breath of air from the window, you feel the weight of the morning settle gently over you. The noise, the laughter, the market chatter, all folding into a soft, living silence. You close your eyes, telling yourself it's only for a minute. Outside, the city hums, unaware. The clock ticks. A single plane crosses the horizon, unseen. And for one fragile heartbeat of time, Hiroshima breathes in and holds it. The room is warm and golden. Tatami mats exhale their dry summer scent, straw and sunlight and time. You lie down beside the open shoji screen, your head sinking into the soft cotton pillow. The hum of the cicadas fades into a lullaby. You close your eyes, just for a moment. The sound of the river slips in through the window, patient and eternal. It mingles with the slow rhythm of your breathing. Each inhale feels lighter than the one before, as if the air itself is carrying you upward. You can still hear faint voices outside. Your wife sweeping the step, your daughter giggling over her paper crane. They drift farther and farther away, as though someone is gently turning the volume of the world down. The body loosens its grip on wakefulness. The cicadas blur into ocean waves. The creak of wood becomes the low hum of a ship. In your dream, you are standing at the water's edge, the Ota River glinting like polished glass. The current runs backward, toward the mountains. The reflection of the sky shimmers, white and endless. Someone calls your name. It sounds like it's coming from the river, or maybe from the past. You look and see your brother standing ankle deep in the water, wearing his Navy uniform, smiling. He says, "It's not your turn yet." You answer, "Then whose is it?" But the river swallows his reply. You walk along the bank. The city stretches before you. Bridges, rooftops, temples, all glowing as if carved from amber. You recognize every turn, every stone, yet everything feels lighter, like a watercolor about to fade. Paper cranes float down the river, hundreds of them, drifting past your feet. They glow faintly, each carrying a whisper. You reach down to pick one up, but it dissolves in your hand. The air smells of salt and smoke, though you can't see where from. A child's laughter echoes somewhere behind you. The sound of your daughter, maybe, or another child altogether. You turn and see her on the bridge, waving, sunlight flashing off her ribbon. You wave back. For a moment, you're both caught between dream and memory, perfectly balanced. Then, slowly, the scene begins to shift. The river narrows into a single line of light. The bridges fold inward like paper. The sound of the city fades into a steady hum, like a radio caught between stations. You think of your wife's voice, the clatter of breakfast bowls, the promise of shaved ice. You hold on to those sounds, anchoring yourself against the drift. Your dream deepens. Now you're in the market again, but it's empty. The stalls stand open, vegetables untouched, baskets swaying in a wind you can't feel. The air glows too brightly, like morning turned inside out. A single newspaper page flutters by your feet. The headline reads simply, "Beautiful weather expected tomorrow." You bend to pick it up, and the paper turns to dust. A bell rings, not a temple bell this time, but the sound of the tram you heard earlier. It echoes through the empty street, distant and pure. You follow the sound until it becomes light. The tracks curve ahead of you, vanishing into white horizon. You remember the words you told your wife. Such a beautiful day for nothing to happen. The sentence repeats itself, quiet and endless. You start to see faces in the light. Your neighbors, the tofu vendor, the students sweeping the street, Mrs. Takamura with her basket of notebooks. They smile, small, serene smiles, as if caught mid-breath. You want to speak to them, to warn them of something, but the words won't come. You realize, with a strange calm, that they're not waiting for answers. They're waiting for remembrance. The dream slows even further. It feels like you're lying in the palm of the city itself, the heartbeat of Hiroshima pulsing beneath you. You can feel it. The rivers, the bridges, the thousands of people moving together in their small, ordinary ways. Each breath, each step, each sound, adding up to something vast and delicate. You think, if peace ever had a sound, this would be it. The hum grows softer. It no longer sounds like cicadas or water or breath. It sounds like memory itself, warm and unending. Your fingers twitch slightly as you drift further down, the last edges of consciousness blurring into gold. The pillow beneath your head is warm from the sun. You exhale, slow and even, as if syncing with the rhythm of the world. You dream of walking home through a field of white cranes, their wings brushing against your sleeves. Each one carries a word from your life: work, family, river, peace. They rise together, their feathers stirring the air in silence. You watch until they disappear into the sky, leaving only stillness and a light. Then the light shifts, not brighter, not darker, just deeper. It folds around you, gentle as fabric. For a moment, you can hear everything at once: the sound of your daughter laughing, the creak of your home, the sweep of your wife's broom, and beyond them, the heartbeat of 1,000 unseen mornings, all overlapping, all perfectly ordinary, all perfectly alive. You whisper something into the light, though you're not sure what it is. Maybe a name, maybe a promise, maybe just the sound of being human. It doesn't matter. The city hears it anyway. The cicadas start again, louder this time, their chorus washing through the air like surf. You open your eyes halfway. The shoji screens glow white. The ceiling beams stretch above you like the ribs of a sleeping animal. You can't tell if you've been asleep for a minute or a lifetime. Outside, your wife hums a tune while rinsing vegetables. Your daughter's voice drifts in. She's counting paper cranes. 84, 85. The world feels almost too still, as if even the air is holding its breath. You blink, once, twice, watching dust dance in the sunlight. Then you close your eyes again. It feels safe to do so. Time folds, dream and waking blur. Every sound slows, a broom, a laugh, a distant bell. You can no longer tell if you are remembering or imagining. You only know that, for this one small, eternal morning, Hiroshima is whole. And you, the man resting by the open window, the father, the husband, the citizen, the witness to sunlight. You breathe, you sleep, and the world holds still with you. The city keeps breathing while you sleep. Every street has its rhythm, every window its own small story. If you could rise above your pillow and drift like a summer breeze, you'd hear it all at once. The pulse of a living city, steady as a drum, unaware of the hand about to still it. At the Hiroshima electric tram depot, a mechanic named Shigeo Tanaka wipes grease from his palms. He checks the brakes on tram number 651, humming the song his wife sang at their wedding. He jokes to a co-worker, "These trams are tougher than soldiers. They always return." His co-worker laughs, strikes a match, and lights a cigarette. The smoke curls upward, lazy and blue. In Motomachi Elementary School, a group of children stand barefoot on the wooden floor, reciting morning exercises. Their teacher, Miss Yamamoto, claps her hands to the beat. Stretch high, she says. Smile at the sun. A few giggle, reaching toward the ceiling. The clock above the chalkboard ticks to 8:05 a.m. At the outer river, fisherman Mr. Hattori untangles his net. The water glows pale gold under the climbing sun. He mutters about the lack of fish, but keeps working anyway, grateful for the quiet. Across the river, two students from Hiroshima Girls' School walk arm in arm, carrying lunchboxes wrapped in faded cloth. They talk about hairstyles, about the rumor that their class will be dismissed early because of the heat. One of them says she wants to visit Fukuya department store for lipstick when peace comes. In a narrow lane behind Honkawa Temple, Reverend Oda rings the morning bell again. The vibration ripples through the air, low and patient. He wipes sweat from his neck, looks toward the sky, and whispers a verse. All things are impermanent. Even the bell will forget its own sound. Then he smiles, pleased by the thought, and goes inside to prepare incense. A seamstress named Aya sits at a machine in a 2-story wooden house near Dabashi Bridge. She pedals rhythmically, stitching uniforms for students. Her radio murmurs a song by Yoshiko Yamaguchi, faint, warm, and slightly off-key. Aya hums along, tapping a heel. Her daughter plays on the floor with 2 buttons, pretending they are eyes for a doll. At 8:09 a.m., an official notice repeats across every local broadcast station. Air raid warning lifted. Citizens may resume normal activities. The words echo through kitchens and workshops like a blessing. Women return to stoves. Clerks unbolt shutters. Children laugh at the all-clear whistle, as if the sky itself had forgiven them. Near Kamiyacho Crossing, a photographer named Mr. Matsuo adjusts his tripod. He's been trying to capture the tram against the morning light for days. He peers through the lens, waiting for the moment when the bridge lines up perfectly. He whispers to himself, one good picture before the war ends. He never gets the shot. The tram is late today. Inside the Prefectural Industrial Promotion Hall, the domed building later called the Atomic Bomb Dome, Secretary Miss Sada Uemura sorts papers on her desk. She straightens a stack of reports, aligning each corner. The pages whisper like wind through grass. On her desk lies a half-finished letter to her mother. I've been eating well. Please don't worry. The air raids never reach us. Down the street, a bakery fires its first batch of morning rolls. The smell drifts through the open windows of the Nakajima district, mixing with the scent of river water and charcoal. A boy runs past, carrying a pail of water. His mother shouts after him to slow down. He laughs, spills half the bucket, and keeps running anyway. The spilled water spreads across the stones, flashing silver in the light. A military officer rides his bicycle toward the 2nd Army headquarters. He pedals carefully, avoiding loose gravel. In his breast pocket is a folded telegram from Tokyo, unread, stamped urgent. He hums a march tune to himself, imagining the comfort of routine. The telegram rubs against his chest with every movement. its paper softening in the heat. At the Hiroshima post office, clerks sort stacks of envelopes. Each letter smells faintly of starch and dust. One envelope carries a return address from Nagasaki, a sister writing to her brother. The clerk stamps it, places it in a bin labeled domestic. He glances at the clock, 8:11 a.m. He wonders idly if his wife remembered to water the gardenias. At the Hiroshima Army Clothing Depot, women sew in long rows under paper lanterns. A fan turns slowly overhead. The foreman wipes his brow and says, "Work hard, ladies. Victory will thank you." They smile politely and keep sewing. Threads snap, needles flash. The room sounds like rain against canvas. On the Motoyasu Bridge, two students from Hiroshima University stop to debate philosophy. One quotes Lao Tzu, "Those who know do not speak." The other replies, "Then why are you still talking?" They both laugh. The bridge trembles faintly under the weight of passing bicycles. Neither notices. A housewife in Nishi Ward pours water over a pot of laundry. Steam rises, curling around her wrists. She looks toward the hills and sighs. Hot already. It will be a long day. Her baby stirs in a cradle beside her. She dips her hand into the cool rinse bowl and touches the child's forehead, smiling. In the sky above Hiroshima Bay, a single silver plane glints faintly. A child points and says, "Look, Mama, it's shining." His mother shades her eyes, squints, and answers, "Just another scout plane." The boy keeps staring, fascinated by the way the sunlight catches its wings. He waves. The plane doesn't wave back. At 8:13 a.m., the sound of the city peaks. Tram bells chatter, the creak of carts, the heartbeat of thousands overlapping. Each rhythm merges into one continuous hum, a harmony of lives perfectly synchronized. Every door that opens, every footstep that falls, every laugh that escapes, all of it joins the same invisible pulse. If you could listen closely enough, you would hear how beautiful it sounds. A whole city breathing, together ordinary and infinite. It's the sound of workers and dreamers, of soldiers and children, of people who believe tomorrow will sound exactly the same. The clock on your wall ticks once more. You shift slightly in your sleep. Your wife hums from the next room, and your daughter whispers, counting the last of her cranes. Outside, the sky is white and still. It's 8:14 a.m. And in that final moment of ordinary time, Hiroshima stands completely alive. No smoke, no fear, no pause in the rhythm of life. Only the shimmer of sunlight on rivers and the quiet promise of one more peaceful breath. It is 8:14 a.m. and 50 seconds. The sun is already high, so bright it makes the roof tiles shimmer like silver scales. The city hums softly, unaware that it has just entered its final, perfect minute. Your wife kneels by the window, wringing a cloth, her sleeves rolled to the elbows. She glances once toward your sleeping shape and smiles, a quiet, private kind of love. She turns back to her work, humming without realizing it, a melody that was popular before the war, a song about meeting under cherry blossoms. Outside, your daughter folds one more paper crane. 87. She whispers the number to herself like a secret wish. The thin paper flutters between her fingers. She doesn't notice the cicadas pause for a heartbeat. Even nature seems to take one quiet inhale. Across the street, Mr. Watanabe, the sandal maker, squints through his glasses. He's threading a strap through worn leather, muttering about supply shortages. He looks up at the sound of laughter. 2 schoolgirls running toward the bridge, late for duty. He grins, shakes his head, and goes back to work. His hands never stop moving. Down the block, a radio announcer adjusts his microphone. He checks his watch, exactly 8:15, and prepares to read the weather report. Today, clear skies over western Honshu. Visibility, excellent. He takes a slow breath, steadying his voice. He never finishes the sentence. In the market, a woman lifts a melon to test its weight. The vendor, wiping sweat from his neck, tells her, "That one's sweet. It waited for you." She laughs, hands over a few coins and says, "Then I'll take Fate's melon." He wraps it in newspaper, humming under his breath. The sound of coins, the scent of fruit, the clatter of wooden sandals on stone. The orchestra of the living world playing its softest note. On Aioi Bridge, a tram rattles forward. Passengers fan themselves, shifting in the heat. A boy near the window traces a crane on the fogged glass. The conductor rings the bell twice, clear, rhythmic, perfectly on schedule. The bell's echo glides across the river and reaches your house, a faint chime carried by the wind. At Honkawa Temple, Reverend Ota pauses in his sermon. He turns toward the open courtyard and sees a butterfly land on the bell rope. He smiles, thinking it an auspicious sign that even the smallest creature seeks the sound of peace. He folds his hands and whispers, "May all beings find stillness." Inside the prefectural industrial hall, the secretary, Miss Uemura, glances at the clock on the wall. Its second hand ticks forward, slow and steady. She reaches for her pen. A bead of sweat runs down her wrist, falling onto the page. It leaves a faint circle beside the word, safety. In the sky above, the single silver plane drifts calmly, small as a dragonfly against the vast white morning. Its shadow passes over the Otter River, one ripple among thousands. A fisherman looks up and shades his eyes, then shrugs, believing it's only another scouting run. Back inside your home, you shift slightly on the futon. The dream hasn't ended. It's only changed rooms. You hear your daughter whisper something, maybe your name, maybe the number of cranes again. Her voice melts into the heat. You inhale, slow and shallow, the air tasting faintly of tatami and tea. The wind stills. For the briefest instant, The entire city holds one collective breath. Bicycles pause mid-turn. A fly hovers, perfectly still in the air. A drop of water falls from a washcloth and lands soundlessly on the floor. Time itself seems to tilt, balancing between what was and what will never be. Again. It is 8:15 a.m. exactly. The clock's hand moves forward, one small click. The sound is almost imperceptible, but it is the last sound Hiroshima ever hears in peace. And somewhere, unseen beyond the edges of human knowing, light begins to bloom. Not yet reaching, not yet touching, just gathering, patiently, silently, as if taking one long, holy breath before the dawn. You exhale in your sleep, unaware. Your wife folds the last towel. Your daughter lifts her paper crane to the sunlight. And the city, the whole, breathing, beautiful city, rests perfectly still in the final second of forever. Letters in the wind. Dear city of sunlight and water, I am writing to you from the future you never saw, a future made of quiet mornings, of rebuilt bridges, of children who play where the shadows once fell. The rivers still run the same way, silver and slow, though their reflections carry the weight of memory. I've walked along your banks at dawn, and it's true, the air still smells faintly of cedar and steam. People still bow to each other here, still hang laundry in the same breeze, still cross the Ioi Bridge on bicycles, ringing their bells. The city hums again, but differently, softer, more careful, like someone who has learned the value of silence. The world calls you by many names now, but I still call you what you were that morning. Home. They say, time heals all things. It doesn't. It remembers in a quieter voice. Every August, when the air grows too bright and the cicadas return, people gather by the river holding lanterns. Each one floats away like a heartbeat released. A letter written in light, drifting downstream toward the sea. Children fold paper cranes, just as they did that morning. Their fingers crease the paper carefully, whispering wishes into each fold. Some cranes are pink, some blue, some made from scraps of newspaper. Proof that peace doesn't need perfection, only patience. One girl says aloud, "For all who slept through the light." Her voice trembles, but her hands never stop folding. The world changed after you. Nations redrew their borders. Scientists built memorials out of equations. And humanity, for a time, stared into the mirror of its own invention. But somehow, amid the politics and pages of history, your morning survived. The smell of miso soup, the sound of a tram bell, the touch of sunlight on water, those details refuse to burn. They are what we remember now, the texture of ordinary life, the kind that doesn't make it into history books, but shapes them all the same. A woman wringing a cloth, a child whispering numbers, a sandal maker threading leather, unaware that the moment he's in, will someday be studied by people trying to understand what peace looks like. Hiroshima stands rebuilt now, a city of glass and gardens where the air is filled not with smoke, but with prayers disguised as daily laughter. The Peace Memorial Park sits where the market once buzzed. Tourists walk quietly there, unsure how to breathe in a place where time once ended. They lower their eyes, read the plaques, and listen. If they're lucky, they'll hear what you left behind, the hum of a city that forgave the sky. At the Children's Peace Monument, a bronze girl reaches upward holding a paper crane. Her name was Sadako. She was 2 years old that morning. Years later, she folded over 1,000 cranes in the hope of healing. Her wish still flutters in the wind, not for herself, but for everyone. And somehow, impossibly, the wind keeps answering. Every August 6th at exactly 8:15 a.m., the city falls silent. Trams stop. Bells ring once. People close their eyes. For 60 seconds, no one moves. It is not grief anymore. It's recognition. A promise whispered across time. We will remember the moment before. Because memory is a kind of resurrection. It rebuilds the morning from fragments. From rice steam, from laughter, from the whisper of a child's wish. Each retelling is a small defiance, a refusal to let silence have the final word. And so the story continues, quietly, in classrooms, in museums, in the space between generations. I think of you often, the man who took a nap beside the open window, your family, your neighbors, the hum of your street. You never woke to see how wide the ripples spread, how far your ordinary life traveled through time. But maybe that's what eternity really is. The world remembering your morning over and over in a softer voice. And so, to you, and to all who breathed that air, who believed the sky was harmless, we send our letters in the wind. They rise like cranes, like prayers, folded from everything we've learned since. They say only this: you were loved, you are remembered, you still live in the sound of ordinary time. The cicadas sing again, their rhythm unchanged. The rivers glow, the sky impossibly blue. And somewhere beyond time and memory, you turn in your sleep, smiling at the sound of the world still breathing. The city that remembered, Hiroshima's first spring, 1946. The following spring, Hiroshima began to breathe again. The air still held a faint metallic taste, and the soil shimmered strangely in sunlight. Yet beneath the ash, shoots of green were pushing through. The people who had survived returned in trickles at first. Families stepped over melted roof tiles and twisted bicycles, whispering to each other as if afraid to wake ghosts. They carried bundles of rice, bent nails, scraps of memory. They came to look for relatives, for lost shops, for the shape of the city they once knew. Some carried nothing at all, only a sense of unfinished life. January 1946. The Ash Garden. Winter sat heavily over the ruins. The rivers froze at their edges, holding bits of warped tin and burned sandals. Still, people began clearing paths. Women in layered kimonos swept with straw brooms made from salvaged grass. Children dug with kitchen ladles. The government had not yet sent formal crews, only locals, many of them hibakusha, survivors of the atomic blast, working from dawn until their hands split. They called their effort the Ash Garden. Each cleared patch of earth was marked by a small paper tag bearing a single word: home. A young woman named Tomiko found the foundation of her family's tofu shop. The stove was gone, the walls gone, but the old well still worked. She drew water with a tin can and bowed to the steam that rose. "If the well remembers me," she said softly, "then so will the city." That night, people gathered around the first small fire they dared to light in the open. They boiled rice and whispered news. Ration cards might come soon. Trains might start again. The Americans might rebuild the bridge. Someone even laughed. It sounded foreign, but good. February 1946. The return. The trains returned before the electricity did. They called it the Ghost Line. At dawn, a single black tram rolled slowly down what had once been the main street. Its windows were shattered, its paint blistered, but it moved, creaking, rattling, alive. Children followed it, barefoot through the snow, waving. Inside, a driver in a patched uniform leaned on the throttle as if steering time itself. For the first time in months, the clang of the tram bell echoed through the ruins. Some wept when they heard it. Nearby, the prefectural office reopened under tarps. Announcements were printed on scraps of newsprint. New ration distribution points, lost and found notices. A public bath reopened near the river. People lined up not only for supplies, but for a sense that the world had structure again. In Tokyo, Prime Minister Kijuro Shidehara spoke of peace and reconstruction. Japan, he said, must rebuild its soul as well as its cities. Most citizens never heard the broadcast. Radios were rare and electricity unreliable. But word traveled mouth to mouth, and the idea of rebuilding the soul became something people repeated while sweeping debris, half smiling, unsure what it meant. March 1946, the first school. Children were the first to test hope. A volunteer teacher, Miss Mori, gathered a dozen of them in the shell of an old library. She hung paper from a broken beam to serve as a blackboard, wrote the word sunrise in chalk, and told them they were starting again from that word. One boy asked if writing still mattered. She nodded. "If we stop writing," she said, "the world will forget we lived." Lessons were half reading, half scavenging. They learned fractions by dividing ration biscuits, history by mapping where each had been during the blast. When they grew tired, she let them nap in the light coming through the cracked roof. The wind turned the pages of their notebooks by itself. April 1946, the Americans. By spring, the American occupation forces began visiting more often. Jeeps rolled through streets still lined with rubble. Soldiers in khaki stared out, quiet, their boots crunching on glass. Many had seen combat only months earlier. Now they were told to bring supplies, take photographs, and record damage reports. One lieutenant from Kansas wrote in his notebook, "I expected anger. I found silence." At the temporary hospital, American doctors worked beside Japanese nurses. The nurses taught them words for burns, fever, and grief that had no English equivalent. A translator named Sato joked that the Americans learned "itai" faster than "hello." It means "it hurts." Sometimes, the soldiers gave the children chocolate. The children bowed and shared it evenly, breaking each square into 5. Even sweetness, they said, tastes better that way. May 1946, the bells of peace. In the temple district, monks gathered melted bronze and fragments of statues. They decided to cast a new bell, not for victory, not for mourning, but for peace. Each villager brought something to the melting pot: a coin, a bit of wire, even a child's spoon. When the bell was raised, weeks later, its surface bore faint patterns of fingerprints and tool marks. The head monk said, "It will sound like all of us." On its first ringing, the tone wavered unevenly, part sorrow, part breath. Birds lifted from the trees that had survived near the riverbank. People closed their eyes and whispered names. The echo traveled over the empty lots where houses once stood and lingered, as if the city itself was listening. June 1946, the river restored. The Motoyasu River began to look alive again. The first fish returned, tiny flashes of silver darting between stones. Survivors gathered at dawn to wash clothes, pour tea, or simply sit in silence. The sound of running water became the city's new heartbeat. One fisherman, old Mr. Hori, rebuilt his boat from planks salvaged from a burned school. Each morning, he cast his net and said the same prayer: "Let the river forgive us." When he finally caught a handful of minnows, people treated it as a festival. He didn't eat them, he released them back into the current. At night, fireflies began appearing again. Children followed them with glass jars, whispering that the spirits had turned to light so they could guide them home. July 1946, the artist returned. A group of painters and poets from Kyoto arrived to document what remained. They brought sketchbooks, charcoal, and small rolls of rice paper. They expected desolation. Instead, they found a quiet stubbornness. They painted women hanging laundry between cracked walls, boys mending bicycles, old men trimming weeds around broken statues. One artist sketched a girl planting flowers in a tea tin. He called it the first garden. It was later displayed in Tokyo, shocking viewers who had only heard of Hiroshima as ash. A poet named Yasuko wrote a verse that appeared in a small local paper. Even here, cicadas sing. Even here, the wind tastes of summer. We live between the echoes. People cut it out and taped it above their doors. August 1946, the ceremony. By late summer, the city had grown used to its scars. The outlines of streets were visible again, bridges repaired with mismatched planks, markets reopening under canvas roofs. Vendors sold pickled radish, bamboo toys, and tiny folded paper cranes. That August, on the anniversary of the bombing, a small crowd gathered near the river. There was no stage, no speeches, only a few paper lanterns and the new temple bell. Survivors stood shoulder to shoulder with soldiers, monks, and children born after the blast. At exactly 8:15 a.m., they observed silence. The river shimmered with lantern reflections. Wind moved through the ruins like breath through an empty flute. A young nurse placed a single white chrysanthemum in the water. "This is for those who couldn't see spring," she whispered. When the bell rang, its tone was steady now, clear, resonant, alive. The sound drifted across the river, over the cleared streets, over the ghost-line tram still clanging faintly in the distance. It reached the hills where new grass was growing, and the people standing there bowed in silence. No one called it the Peace Memorial Ceremony yet. That name would come later, but for those who were there, it was enough. A moment that said, "The city remembers, and so will we." That night, families sat outside in the cooling air. Someone tuned a broken radio to a faint American jazz station. Others told stories of the past year, of trains returning, schools reopening, bells ringing. The city, though changed forever, was no longer silent. And above them, cherry trees, scarred but living, stirred in the wind, carrying petals into the dark. From ruin rose a place that would teach the world how to remember